Konbanwa, James des. Sorry I had to take off early from Emily's acoustic live. Oddly enough, Emily and I have the same birthday. Not lying. And I've got my own things planned for tomorrow and the day after, and so I had to get my apartment cleaned up. So I had to take off early. So, what was I going to talk about? Yeah. I go to a lot of live shows, and I go to a lot of places that I've never been to before. And I always have to find my own way there. So I thought I should give you all some tips on how to get to places you've never been before in Japan and in Tokyo. First thing you do, before you go there, preferably the day before at least, figure out what the address is. That's the first step, figuring out what the address is. Japanese addresses usually work on sort of a coordinate system rather than numbers on a street or numbers on streets. You have the prefecture, Tokyo-to, for example. You have the, what do you want to call it? Well, the ward, or the, what do you want to call it? Precinct, I guess. So there's Shinjuku-ku, so Tokyo-to, Shinjuku-ku. And then there's the, well, what would we call it? The neighborhood, I guess. In this case, Okubo. And then there's usually, in Tokyo at least, a set of 3 numbers afterwards. And in the case of the place that everyone who went to Emily's show went to tonight, the numbers are 1-8-2. That number 1 is sort of like a precinct. I know I said precinct earlier, but that's not right. So 1 is like the number of the area within Okubo. That's Ichome, or first chome, or however you want to say it. Then the next number, the 8, that's the block within that neighborhood, within that precinct, or whatever you want to call it. So Okubo Ichome, or area number 1, and then block number 8, and then the last number is 2, which is the building in that precinct, or on that block, I should say. So, for example, the place that everyone went to tonight who went to see Emily's show, Tokyo-to, Shinjuku-ku, Okubo, 1-8-2. That's the first step, finding out the address. And being able to say it, that's helpful too. I went through a few stages of learning how to find my way around to live houses all over Tokyo and, well, all over the Kanto area, as a matter of fact. The first thing I usually did was go to a place like Mapion, www.mapion.co.jp, or Mapfan, www.mapfan.com, and I'd print out a map. Now those are Japanese sites, and what you need to be able to get maps out of those sites is the ability to type the addresses in Japanese, which is something you should learn as long as you're here. If you're not quite to that point yet, I'm guessing Google Maps can be used the same way. You can use Google Maps to look up addresses, and if you've got a printer handy, you can use the printer to print yourself a map at least the day before you have to go to this place that you've never been before. A little more advanced is a site called Navitime, which even my little piece of crap PHS, this little banged up PHS, this can use Navitime. Navitime is great because you can plug in your starting address and your destination address, and it'll tell you what train to go to and where to change trains, and it'll give you a map from that last train station to the place where you're going. So for example, I don't know if Google Maps can do this in English for Japan, or even for that matter in Japanese for Japan. But even if you've got the address for the place where you're going, you don't necessarily know the nearest train station. That's one thing I should have mentioned earlier. If you're not at the point where you're using something like Navitime that gives you the full path from start to finish, then you got to figure out where the nearest train station is and how to get from that train station to the place where you're going. And once again, it's important to figure all this out before you have to go to the place where you're trying to go to. That's usually the quickest way. So hopefully that'll help a few folks get not lost in the future. Best of luck out there.